Hello everyone, and welcome to this series of videos on some of the most virtuoso piano works published by Henle Verlag. In this video, let's have a look at the 15th Hungarian Rhapsody by Franz Liszt, in which the composer uses a popular Hungarian march with which the Hungarian people celebrated the victory of their revolution against the Habsburg oppression. At the head of the revolutionaries, there was the Prince Ferenc Rákóczi, indeed. Liszt dedicated to this popular anthem several arrangements. One of those is represented precisely by his 15th Rhapsody. This is a very concentrated piece. Its character is highly heroic, and Liszt here uses fast, strong octaves and chords technique. So let's see how to face up to the different kind of them. At the very beginning, in bar 11, we have these alternated octaves doubling the scales between the two hands to create a sense of redundant movement that reinforces the sound very much. In these cases, it's important that you control the movement of your arms, because you will easily end up by playing the two hands together at the end of the passage. In playing fast alternating chords or octaves, consider that one hand has usually the downbeat and the other hand has the upbeat, so that in this case, for instance, but in other cases too, the left hand has the downbeat and the right hand is something like a reinforcement of the sound. So avoid to play them like putting the same weight and the same muscular force on the two hands, but imagine to play this one a bit heavier and legato. You can also try to practice the passage little at a time to train your arms to reach the speed you need and you want. So start playing the alternating octaves one by one, also, like this. And then you can play the first 5 octaves, for instance, fast, and then rest, then play the other 5 octaves and then rest, and so on, until you can put the whole passage together. So like this. Then rest, rest, until you can make all the passage together, remembering to put all your weight on your left hand. Then you have the octaves of the march that from bar 19 are in a good number, but again there's an accent over the first one of them, so you can press with your arms more here and play not so loud the other octaves. So you have to find always the right places to relax your arms. And in bar 27, you have instead fast octaves in the I register without accent this time. So here, feel free to move your wrist as you need to feel comfortable in the different positions. You have free movement of the wrist like that. Because when you go through the white or black keys, you need a different position of the hand. So feel free to move your elbow and your wrist in order to do this. One of the most common questions students ask to their teacher is, how to play the octaves. Should I use a wrist movement or the movement of the whole arm? Well, of course, it depends on the passage you are playing and about the sonority you want to get. On a modern piano, it's really tiring to play octaves using the wrist alone, like this, of course. And so you can use your wrist when you need a sparkling staccato or when, like this, or when you have to play short repeated notes. But always, if you have to play these octaves for a short period of time and not in forte. If you're playing octaves in forte, of course you need the help of the whole arms or the forearms. The wrist in this case could stay still like this, or it would be useful to use the wrist to bring your hands down to the keys and then to lift them up like this. So with this movement, you simply put the hand on the keys to play the octaves down, and then you lift it up. But the real movement is made by your arms, of course. From bar 144, we have another kind of octaves combination quite often used by Liszt, the chromatic scale in alternated octaves. Here again, it's all about alternating the two arms in a way that one will not crash on the other. This happens when you are not able to control the movement, the impulse from your arms and from your shoulders. You have to control it and stay very relaxed at the same times, otherwise the hands will collide. In order to overcome this particular passage, just follow the dynamics. So you should start playing quite lightly and legato, and then push a bit over the upper octaves. So don't start playing with tension in your arms, otherwise it will be a disaster. So look at your thumb as a point of reference, because you can look at the center of the two hands. Let's notice also that the position of the hands in this particular octaves passages is always the same. So you have the alternation of the left hand down on the black keys and the right hand up, and then the reverse. So you have this kind of movement. At the very end of the piece, we have the final exposition of the main theme in a wild, furious section. From bar 200, you have these jumps in the left hand that you find very often in Liszt, with the bass in octave and then the chord quite far away from it. At this regard, I suggest to move the left hand with a round movement, marking the bass very well, because of course it's in downbeat, and slightly less the chord. Then you should try to turn around the thumb and the fifth finger when you go from the octaves to the chords and vice versa, creating this kind of movement. So you have to think about this. Don't try to obtain the jumps with an horizontal movement like this, with preparation, because maybe you think it's safer at the beginning. But when you play the piece at the right tempo, at the final tempo, you will find out that this movement lacks in power and it's really uncomfortable. And the sound itself would be not large enough. So start practicing it very slowly, but then try to gain more and more velocity as you feel comfortable with this kind of movement. Now, about the final octaves that you find from bar 208, just follow the dynamics, so don't play forte from the beginning to the end of the passage. So be sure to make the right crescendo and the diminuendo to not to stress your arms too much, like this. So if you don't consider the dynamic, the quality of sound, and the musical interpretation of this element, virtuoso pieces will sound just blatant and noisy. Virtuosity, even with its self-centered temptations, must be always at the service of the good musical taste. Well, I hope this will be useful for you if you are working or planning to work on this piece. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned on endless social media channels.